It's a whole chunk. Stupid Karen's January. Thank you. Item number 3, read and approve the agenda for March 1st, 2024 public safety meeting. And looks like we have a 19-point agenda. Looking for a motion to approve that agenda.
I'll make that motion.
All right, and a second?
I'll second.
Seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Read and approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2024 public safety meeting. Everybody had a chance to look at those, I hope. Looking for a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion for approval.
Thank you, Carrie, and second.
I can't second because I wasn't here.
Well, you can, but you just read them.
Okay.
You agree that you've read them and they're okay.
Yeah, I read.
All right, if you're okay with it, I still need a second.
Okay.
All right, so we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. That is approved. Moving forward, number 5, coroner updates.
Sorry. My email was thinking. All right, stop thinking. All right. Well, I thought I had one from him, but apparently I don't. I just have January, so I guess I don't have one.
All right, currently then, item number 5, no coroner updates. Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, circuit court judge updates and comments. Judge.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to add today, other than the fact that things are going well. We're continuing to do the work of the circuit court. There aren't any big glitches there. We're all got plenty on our docket all the time. But we managed to get through it, and I think we do a good job at that. I think the big thing is that we're looking forward to the space needs assessment that the county is putting together, and Candace has assured us that the court will have an opportunity to be heard, and when the folks come around to do that assessment in terms of the needs that we have as it pertains to both the infrastructure, the needs of the court, and particularly the security concerns that we all have. So that's all on the table and considered as the county moves forward, trying to figure out what to do with the campus or updating, getting the needed updates that need to occur within the system. So we have been in touch with, the Supreme Court has a marshal who comes around and does assessments and evaluations in terms of security needs. And so I've been in touch with that person, and we're looking at scheduling that. And we just continue subcommittees, the security, courthouse security and facilities committee continues to convene quarterly, and we continue to talk about, discuss, articulate and prioritize the needs as they are seen. And we certainly are planning to have that reduced to writing and move through the proper channels as we've been encouraged to do so many times. We also meet quarterly with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee and continue to do that. We'll continue to do that. And of course, that is a gathering of all of the stakeholders in the criminal justice arena in the county. And we continue to discuss old ideas, new ideas, and concerns, and we're moving forward.
Any questions for the judge? Yes.
Yeah, I know we've talked about the US Marshal coming in. I don't know if we haven't talked about the time frame. I'm wondering if we can get that safety assessment done before we do the space needs, because it's great to have the space needs and then have the US Marshal come in and say that doesn't work. So do we know a time frame of when we might be able to have the US Marshal come in?
I don't, but I am cognizant of that, and that's one of the reasons that I'm prioritizing.
Thank you.
Other questions? When is the next the courthouse security meeting, or what was the last one? What quarters of?
So I just sent out an agenda. If anyone would like to join us, we are meeting on March 12th here in the county boardroom at 8:30. And so that just went out yesterday to the committee members. I'll be posting it downstairs before today. So if did you not receive yours?
No, I won't be here.
Oh, you won't be here. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if Aaron or someone on your behalf,
Yeah.
and maybe, if you can give us some feedback, before the meeting, and pass on that. So, anyone has any questions or thinks the agenda should be amended, I guess I can wait and tell us the probate. I can talk more.
All right. All right, any other questions then for the circuit court judge updates and comments? Hearing none, moving on then to item number 7, clerk of court updates. Stacy was not able to be here. She did send out an email, and I'll just review that quickly here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sarah. I spread that one. And hi, Sarah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to basically say the same thing, that her Stacey's email that she wasn't able to attend today because of personal reasons. And that she noted in there that the excess that for the expenditures was mainly because of attorney fees, with psychological evaluations and interpreter expenses. All things each year that we never know how many we will need or have to do. So there's not really a good way to gauge how much to predict year to year. Also, I just wanted to mention a few things that she's been working on and has accomplished is we had issues with state debt collections sending over debts, and she worked with CPAC and was able to fix that. A lot of glitches in the system, so we're able to make sure that the debts get to where they need so that we can start collecting on them. She also has been updating the signs outside of our office. The main one that comes to mind is the ADA accommodations, which has been updated. So we're up to date on that. And then also we have been speaking about Government Day. And tentatively it would be the 17th of April, which is tentatively Judge McDougall's trial week, which I think would be super, I think would be a great time for people to come see how the court works and just to, not just have statuses after statuses, but actually see how the process is. Because a lot of people don't get to see that and don't understand it. So just a few things, but that's all I have.
Okay, all right. So the April 17th, is there safety concerns there? Obviously, a lot of people coming in and out, and kids, that's the kids, the schools coming in to handle those.
Yeah, we've never had any concerns about that.
And they are supervised by teachers, and, each group has an adult with them, and they're in fairly small groups. So we're pretty familiar with it.
I don't know really how small they are. It's hard to divvy through the hallways when you have a bunch of kids when you're trying to get to court, but there seems to be a lot of them, at least last time there was.
Yeah,
So
but they break up when they come into the individual areas. They have several smaller groups.
That's great.
And I know that, I was looking at the calendar, there's 3 trials on, as of right now, and 2 of mine. One guy is in prison, so he's gonna be scooped up and monitored on his own. And the rest are, in his case, are all civilian witnesses that are paper pushers, for lack of a better term. And then the other one I have is a DNR trial with a guy who's just being obstreperous, but he won't be an actual problem. And I think we have a witness list of 32 DNR officers. So we will have more cops in this building probably than ever. ever before and hopefully ever since moving forward. So.
All right. All right, thank you, Sarah. Any other clerk of courts updates, questions, comments? All right, hearing none, moving on to item number 8, probate.
So just to begin with, just very briefly, on my budget, I'm still thankfully at 98% for the 2023 budget. We still do have a few stragglers of attorney bills coming in. I've sent out emails reminding attorneys to get all of their invoices turned into us for their 2023 work, but I don't believe I have all of them yet, to be honest with you. So that is in pretty good shape. Just kind of going back to things that we have been working on. The judge continues to do a lot in Vernon County. She's going up to Adams County and also has things in Iowa County. So just as a reminder, she's, in addition to the Richland County Circuit Court, she's also traveling a good amount and has several jury trials scheduled coming up for out-of-county cases. And we're working diligently to clean up some of the older cases and get them completed. We are also, just to kind of go back to the court security, I'm looking forward to really having a good vision on where we're going. I feel like that has been a little gray. And so I guess I would welcome any, in the past, all of our ideas came to this committee, or either from the courthouse security meeting, from that committee to this committee, and then passed on to personnel and finance. So I feel like it would be good to have a little guidance and clarification so we can visually see like how we all fit together with Candace helping us on this. Sometimes I feel a little unsure of how to approach everything. So I'm grateful that for all of the strides forward and, that things are getting done, but I'm also looking forward to a little bit clearer vision on where we're going with everything and that.
I will, I guess preface that in saying I think there's a lot of those questions that are being put together, and there's a lot of pieces that need to fall into place to start seeing what that vision is. So the work that you're doing, especially the documentation that is reportable that we can work with to put it in the mix is probably the biggest piece of the puzzle right now that is going to be a big help.
And Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I just had an email exchange with Venture Architects, who are the company that we will be working with. And I'm going to have an initial meeting to really clarify what they're going to do it with the campus reconfiguration committee. Clarify exactly what our expectations are. So that's really nice that we can say, we really want you to look at and listen to the departments and what their needs are, what's working well for them, what isn't working well for them. So we'll be able to outline those things that we really want them to flush out when they're interviewing each of you and looking at your space, and then trying to figure out whether we stay in this space, whether we move to a new space, whether they think we need to build a space, all of those things, because as we've said before, everything's really on the table. So that will allow them to determine the best recommendation that they can for going forward.
Okay. And then one last question kind of on 2024. So I know we're also this year immediately, we're working towards eventually, I know, I just want to preface it by saying, I realize everybody's working hard on lots of projects in the 911 system, and there's just a lot in there. So I know it's down the road and stuff, but I know, so I guess my question kind of is then on the 2024 with the small courtroom.
I just reached out to Marco, and I thought I shared it with Stacy. I reached out to Marco, asked them to make sure that their bid was still complete. sometimes that stuff changes on a daily matter, not just a monthly. And told them we were ready to move forward on the project. So I'm just waiting for them to send me their dates that they're available.
So for the record, who is Marco?
Mark, that was awarded the contract for updating the courtroom.
Great, thank you.
And so by the project, you mean both the audio and the Zoom?
Yep,
The
everything
whole
will be done.
fit and caboodle?
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
We worked out the finances on it and like we're ready to rock. As soon as they confirm the money is still the same. That's like.
Great.
So on that, on their bid, that is them all out.
We are waiting to make sure.
Oh. That's great, yeah, because that continues to be a problem, in small court, and being able to hear what's going on, but and just as importantly, the need for Zoom capabilities, because we're always, last minute needing that second courtroom and somebody needs to use Zoom and so, yeah, it's just super appreciated. Thank you.
Yep. We're working on this problem.
Question about the 2023 attorney fees. You're still waiting for them to get the bills in. Is there a deadline? I understand attorneys sometimes are delayed on some of these things, but is there hey, by March 1st, or die?
Yeah, so. Six was kind of the do or die, and realizing they might need a little bit of grace period, which hopefully is today.
Okay.
That was last, yeah,
Okay.
so really, the county clerk's office is still allowing us to turn them in right now, but the
Okay.
attorneys, yeah, no, that's. And actually, it's not that we won't pay them, it's just that it would come out of my 2024 budget. The attorneys are, so let's say they find one that fell through the cracks, they never sent the invoice, and we will still pay them. It's just that it's gonna come out of my 2024 budget for work done in 2023.
I get, to me, I struggle a little bit with that. If I buy building materials, I get an invoice and I pay it. If we're not getting billed quarterly from these people or from the attorneys or something, can't we have a deadline date of, hey, this was a 2023 case, it's April 1st.
I think
How do we manage that? I think that's ridiculous.
we did enact some policies to sort of shore up that whole process.
Okay.
And ask people to bring, to attorneys to submit interim bills, and basically require that. And then, especially looking at year end and then ask them to make sure, if nothing else, they submit an interim bill before the end of the year. And, that's all great, but of course, for some of these attorneys, it's all the tyranny of the urgent. Somehow billing seems to be the less urgent thing, right? I don't know, they must be independently well paid.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, yeah.
So the problem is then you start saying, well, I'm sorry, you're too late, you're so out of luck, we're not gonna pay you. Well, you've got to remember that we have such a desperate need for attorneys out here.
Okay.
We're gonna, doing ourselves a great disfavor if we start saying, well, come here and do the work, but we're not gonna pay you. So we do, believe me, Jenny and Stacy, they're always on the attorneys, can you please submit your bill, please submit your bill. And yeah, I think that is the ultimate sort of, but we try really hard to work with folks, because we don't need fewer attorneys, we need more attorneys.
Well, it's just so hard to handle the budget
Yes, I agree.
because all of a sudden 23 is being paid out of 24. I mean, if you guys try and calculate a budget at that point, it's just.
Right,
All right.
it's a real balance, I agree.
Okay, didn't know if there was a solution. But
But we're also not advertising that you will get paid. We're still threatening that you won't
Okay.
get paid. So we're not advertising that you're gonna get your money either way.
And I know your honor has a lot of contact and is aware of this, but just so the committee knows, these are not law firms like in Madison, where they have a bunch of administrators. The lawyer gives the bill to the billing department and the billing kicks it out. You have attorneys, they're solo attorneys, their clients' hair is on fire, and they don't have someone they can go back to and say, hey, can you bill it out? So I'm just saying it's a little different than big firms who have a different set of priorities. So it's just a different nature of the firms out here. It's one person working in a tiny office.
No clerical staff.
No clerical staff.
Yeah, often that's very true.
And not even anyone to answer the phone. Needs to use phone services.
Just because you're a lawyer, you may not be very good at the administrative stuff. All this firsthand, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Just,
And one last comment on that. So, and sometimes they are, when they don't always do the billing to the end of the case, so if the case
Okay.
started in early 2023, sometimes it doesn't come to light till the case is kind of completed, which might, be later in 2024. So there's a little bit of that, but we do try and get the interim bills. And the last thing, I just can't help myself. I got to put in a plug for whoever is working on building up Richland Center. If we could do anything to attract attorneys, that would be helpful.
Another one.
Boy, get right on that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I do have another meeting at 9, so is there anything that anyone needs me for? The rifle range, just to plug that a little bit early.
Sure.
I did go and meet with Clay and Josh Elder. I do think it's an outstanding plan. I think it'll be minimally cost us very little and promote safety for our training and allow us to train with other entities more safely. And I know we're kind of in the process, we talked about reaching out to some other counties to make sure that there's no additional liability, zoning issues, and to get some examples and sample policies in order to be able to move forward on that. So that's my little plug on that. I am in favor of it. I think it's an outstanding idea and it would give a great opportunity for our law enforcement agency.
Okay.
There was one thing that I was just gonna touch on since you're leaving. I was kind of waiting for the dust to settle, but my assistant district attorney is 80% ADA and 20% assistant court counsel. And now that there's no administrator in the child support office, we have to talk about how that affects my office and the hours that she has to work for me. So we'll have that conversation.
I spoke with Amy yesterday, but we have made a hire. So that will be going down.
And I understand that, but my understanding is it's not an administrator, it's not a department head. And I still need to have a conversation about the hours that my ADA needs to do in my office compared to anything else. So.
Perfect.
Candace, do you have any updated information as to when the space needs assessment interviews are gonna start?
Well, that's what, my update earlier. So I got an email from Kyle. We're going to set that meeting. And then as soon as that meeting is done, those are gonna kick off. I would guess by mid-March, they will start, looking at all of that. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're moving forward. I love it. All right, thanks, everybody.
Anything else for probate then? Questions, comments? All right, moving forward, district attorney update.
Sure, thank you, welcome. So, we never thought of it this way, but we're the only law firm in this county that's directly underwritten by the county, right? So we're a law office. Sometimes people want to associate with us with the court, which is certainly true because we spend our time in court, but the court doesn't have the same mission as the DA's office. So we're the only law office. We have our staff, our law office staff is directly employees of the county. So to that end, since we're the only law office, we also have the only legal secretary in the county. And so this is Krista Parker, and she is our legal assistant. And she is now off probation. So I thought I'd bring her in this time because if she stunk, there was no reason for anyone to meet her. So, which is true. So she's now made it off probation. She's done a great job on it. Well, how would you characterize what your job looks like every day?
I've learned a lot in the last 6-7 months. There's a lot to this job that you would never even think of. Like just about victim stuff and just my responsibilities of like what the court stuff is like. I feel like I learn something every single day. Some days are tougher than others just with the job and but yeah, no, it's going great. It's awesome. I love everybody I work with. We all flow so good together, so it's really great.
Yeah, so she's getting a good handle on the legal documents. You know, I just shout out of my office, I need a motion to revoke the DPA, and now she can just puke out motions very easily. And if there's anything that's even slightly funky, she'll send it in to me and say, is this all right? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's perfect. Send it out. So it's been working really well.
I will say that those warrants are coming in really quickly.
I know. She knocks those out, right? So not very much delay in getting that stuff done. And that's because she can do it on her own and doesn't have to wait to say, what do I do with this?
Yeah, and I think too, like, you know, with the victim witness coordinator and the victim witness supervisor, like, if they're up in court, you're up in court. And there's a lot of times where I'm by myself and I'm answering the phone and I feel like
You have to do the
A lot of-
victim.
I have a lot of responsibilities. Yes.
That's true. Everything we tell her, we're like, okay, I need you to learn how to do this. And it's very important. The victims, right, sending out victim packets. Hey, we need you to do this paperwork, which you're gonna start this probably very soon, this new job. It's very important. It can't not get done. We have Victims' Rights Board, and the judge is not gonna be happy if we're gonna say we have to kick it down the road because we don't have our victim stuff. So it's all gotta get done. So we don't usually say like, here's just a really easy thing for you to do.
Yeah, never.
Anyway, you can go back to doing non-easy
Okay.
things. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Nice meeting you guys.
Thank you for coming in.
She's also cute as a button.
Oh,
And lovely and all those kind of things. The next thing is we've talked about this over the course of time with command staff through a variety of different command staffs about getting a couple other ordinances on the books. One of them potentially is a bail jumping ordinance. We have bail jumpings as crimes. I've always said, and everyone knows this, bail jumps make the world go round. So a bail jump is someone has been arrested on a crime. They have to sign a bond that's been ordered by the court that says you can't drive or you can't have contact with someone or you can't consume alcohol or something like that. Inevitably, people do the things that they're not supposed to do. They get charged with a bail jump. Right, so usually we just use those as leverage and off we go. We dismiss the bail jumps and we go ahead and proceed with only the initial charges. I think that there should be at least some monetary, and the judge knows I don't like money. Money is not very interesting to me particularly, but some ordinance bail jumps. So they would have some kind of bail jump in a disposition. So we're working on that as an ordinance. I know this is all new to the judge because the conversation at this point hasn't gotten that far. And another potential, an ordinance about DC with a motor vehicle, which we can talk about later. So that's sort of a discussion having with command staff. Another conversation we've been having with command staff is Tyler Barth, the new investigator. Here we had another investigator who, for a variety of reasons, hasn't been here, particularly in the last, I would say, lengthy period of time for our need for an investigator. But as soon as that was possible to fill, Sheriff's Department filled that. I think that the investigator that they got was fantastic, worked with Tyler for years and years. He came from the police department and he's like a monkey on a banana. There is nothing that's going to get past him. So I've been talking to him a lot about sort of how my office works. He knows how the office works with the Sheriff's Department, but never really knew how it works as an investigator in that capacity with my office. So we've had some ongoing conversations about what he should expect from us and what we should expect from him. And then talking with command staff about what are your policies. So Tyler is getting through all the policies. What are all the policies in the Sheriff's Department because he came from the police department. And as he's going through there, there's a little like, how long has that policy been in place? Well, the last 50 years. Okay, so we're going to sort of start looking, sort of this holistically. So I think a lot of that's happening. It's all happening right now. It's something ongoing with the chief deputy, but we're working through that. It's really been a good process, and I think it will continue to be that. Some good news for money. I don't like money, boy, but lots of good money news. So once upon a time, sorry for all of you who worked with Fred Clary, once upon a time, I'm going to go back to the late 90s. The late 90s, the law changed and said we have to have victim witness coordinators, right? And it was because victims needed to be treated like people rather than simply pieces of evidence. So the law said you had to do certain things. So it was great. They paid for it, right? So as a county employee that we got reimbursed for. Fantastic. Well, as we know, the state government, if they don't just do a straight out unfunded mandate, sometimes they like to do a decreasingly funded mandate. So over the course of time, now they're just reimbursing by this much, and it almost never goes up, the reimbursement rate always almost goes down. So when the position started, and we saw that there started to be decreasing funding from the state, there was an ordinance that said if there was less than a 50% reimbursement rate from the state, we're gonna reevaluate whether or not we're gonna have the position. Well, you had to have the position because it was a decreasingly funded mandate. You can't just say reimbursement has gone down and now we're not gonna have that employee anymore. Oh, fantastic. I'll be there. I have court, but not with this judge.
Okay,
Off I go. I'll be back.
all right, thank you.
You bet.
All right, we will just bump right then to emergency management.
All right. I don't know, Carrie, if you know much more about the changes to the committee structure for the county, or if you do. But there's a proposal to, again, rearrange Richland County committees. And of course, LEPC is one that comes up. I have some information here. I don't know if it's going to really be relevant to everybody here, but there are certain things you cannot do with a local emergency planning committee. And one of them is to subsume the duties of that committee into another committee structure. It's federally defined and it's state mandated, and the county of Richland must necessarily adhere to the Code of Federal Regulations that guides LEPC conduct. So I'm available, I guess, to whomever may be restructuring committees for Richland County so as to have proper legal guidance on how to not do that. But I guess I'll be waiting to hear from the county board and or other boards of concern insofar as restructuring is concerned, how they're going to proceed with that, and then I can advise accordingly. So if anybody's interested in knowing how the LEPC is supposed to be structured, I have that information here. But I think I can just probably pass that off to Candace and or whoever. If you wanted to distribute some of these, we can do that, or we can email people what an LEPC is. It doesn't really matter what committee the LEPC is organized under. It can be Parks and Recreation. It can be any of the other ones I see on here, Public Works or Natural Resources. That does not matter because it is a self-competent committee, and it operates under mandates that are provided by the federal government and the state of Wisconsin emergency management. So I can just keep track of where things are headed with the county board on this issue, and then I can advise accordingly.
So what makes the LEPC unique? Currently, the rework here, it falls under public safety, and then it is it's reporting up through public safety. So what's the challenge of the question?
The challenge is that there were comments made somewhere in a briefing that the duties of the LEPC would be subsumed into another committee, that it'd be absorbed as a function of another committee, which that's not legal.
Okay.
Cannot do that. Now, emergency management, that's a different story, how you want to deal with emergency management duties and so forth. Separate issue. You got to understand that LEPC is EPCRA and emergency management is EMPG and HMEP and so forth. So the emergency management functions of the county can be delegated differently, but the LEPC can never really be touched. It's its own entity in the universe, as it were.
We receive federal funding too through a grant that we wouldn't be able to have if we didn't have LAPC. Right.
So it can report up through other committees.
I guess if it
but-
needs to go to county board.
Right.
You have
This
to
is
do
a-
that for multiple committees, if you're going through a 3-step process in order to get something approved, and then can
It'd
be
take forever.
altered by multiple other committees before it even gets to county board floor. The
Yeah.
original committee, because the other people have different ideas versus the other ones.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why Wisconsin elected to do it by the county. In Minnesota, I think it's done regionally. Still kind of the same sort of thing, but the state mandate is different. I have the state mandate language right in front of me here if you want to see that.
Yes, we would like to get a copy. of that.
US code.
Make sure everybody has that, so we're aware of that, please.
And just for all of us,
Yep.
what is LEPC? LEP?
LEPC is a local emergency planning committee. So that committee deals with mainly the chemicals that are in, like, say Schreiber Foods, foremost. Yeah, hazardous chemicals, the new wastewater plant that we have, it's got chemicals, the water utilities has chlorine, and that's where John comes into play. We actually contract with him prior to him being the interim, emergency management director now, but helps out with those chemicals, and if there was a spill, a breach of some sort.
There's a lot of really nasty chemicals that are either in or move through the county on a daily basis that people aren't aware of. And so
Yeah, like
John-
semi trucks and trains
John
down through Lone Rock
helps track
area and
that.
stuff.
Yes, I do.
But it's just not chemicals too, it's about other issues that go on, how is the response at the hospital gonna be? What's law enforcement's, to deal into a hazard that happens or explosion or whatever, so.
Yep.
And the makeup of that committee, it's statutory through federal code of who is members of that committee. Like your fire chiefs, the sheriff, the police department, elected officials locally, your state elected officials are on the committee. User groups that have like the Foundry and Schreibers will have representatives that are on that committee. Few more that are on there too.
Does the LAPC also fund the live training events and the roundtable discussions on that? Is that through LAPC? Is that through?
That's through emergency management, so that's EMPG.
All right, wasn't sure which side that did.
Yeah, but LAPC and EMPG kind of work together on that, and now that the state of Wisconsin has moved to an IPP concept, it's changed it somewhat, but the money is pretty much still the same. IPP is integrated preparedness planning, kind of a new thing, not necessarily for other organizations in the state, but for us, it is. And what it's attempting to do is take emergency management planning down to the local level so that the county or the jurisdiction determines what training and what exercises will be done for that calendar year. Whereas before it was, we kind of get together in emergency management department and think, well, it's been a while since we've done active threat, not active shooter. It's been a while since we've done a tornado drill or ammonia or chlorine. So let's do that. Under IPP, we have to go out and request information from each one of the municipalities, what's a priority for them for emergency management response and recovery. They give us that feedback, we go back to the IPP, put that in the matrix and then make it happen. Like we're gonna have active threat here for the courthouse is one of those.
Okay.
So that's the emergency management side of the house. EPCRA does all of the hazardous materials, but hazardous materials requires capabilities that come from the emergency management side of the house. So they keep overlapping as that process proceeds. But EPCRA itself is more concerned with hazardous materials by fixed facilities and by transportation modality.
Okay, so I guess under the question of the LAPC, then I would ask you to follow up with Candace. I will also do that. To make sure that we are getting that clarified.
Yeah, we want to make sure that it doesn't really matter where it goes.
Right,
It just can't be interfered with.
right.
That's the main point.
And the membership. The only thing that would affect us as a county for the membership would be who sits on that committee as far as our local government.
And is the membership statutory?
Yes.
What members are
So
required?
our old board rules, like our old board rules. Prior, it was the chair and vice chair, I think were on there, but the chair currently doesn't want to sit on there, so he had a couple other supervisors sit on that in lieu of him.
Okay.
I was one of those.
I think that was originally the Emergency Management Committee.
Yeah.
So that's an even separate structure.
And the chair and the vice chair used to sit on the emergency management committee. They were automatic members with one other supervisor. Now that we've done this reconfiguration like 2 years ago, it's definitely different, but.
Okay.
We're the emergency management.
Yeah, essentially.
We are, it's public safety.
Public safety, right?
And my recommendation would be to leave it like it is because it's a logical connection of stakeholders.
Mhm.
with the emergency management, now the mitigation, the IPP process and exercise and training. So those parts of emergency management are best overseen by a group like this. So not that it makes any difference, but I really recommend that you leave it like it is.
Makes sense.
Yes.
All right, what else under emergency management?
That is all I have for the moment. If there are any questions, and then
How's it been going in lieu of, Aaron's absence and you taking over? Or any?
Darren's been pretty supportive. So as I need things for the administrative side of the interface between the county and the state and the federal government, Darren has all that information, so that his grant applications and closeouts are due and other like AFG grant things fold into it. He's able to help us sort all that out. And so he'll come to the new building and sit down with Amber and me and work through the process of grant application and closeout and so forth. So, yeah, he's been very supportive of at least the administrative side of it.
You had any issues since his absence or?
On our side, no, on the Rock County side, and
Yeah, with Evansville.
so he's been pulled in other directions pretty heavily because.
But you haven't had to deal with anything though.
Yeah, but here it's been really solid.
I know.
And I don't think we've had a couple of air spills at Shriver's. One was pretty significant, but I think it was still contained within the building. I don't think we ever got a call from the school district across the street that they had any issues. Or over here by Foremost, I didn't hear any of that escape that building either. So as far as having to respond to things in the last couple of months, I haven't, unless you've heard of anything. Other than Shriver's, but all of our facilities have a direct line to my personal phone. And if anything happens, I get calls immediately. So I'm addressing all of the spill calls as they happen. And then if anything happens on the highways and you start seeing placards, same thing. I recommend that we stay in touch because you can get resources mobilized from Darren very quickly. So, yeah, as far as I know, everything is going fairly well.
All right.
This is Amber. Can I add something
Sure, Amber.
for our joint department kind of thing? So I had come to the meeting last month and talked to you guys about the AFG grant. I just wanted to give you a quick update on that. So we are nearing completion of that grant. It's due next Friday. We're hoping to be able to submit it early next week, if all goes well. And so far we've been able to gather information from Ithaca and from Lone Rock. So hopefully we can be successful in that. We've gotten a letter or we're going to be receiving a letter of support thanks to Clay reaching out to one of the local or the federal politicians to be able to get that. And that's all I have on that. From the LEPC standpoint, if it wasn't mentioned, we've got a section on our emergency management website that has all sorts of information about LEPC, what it is, who the members are, that kind of stuff. So I encourage anybody to look at that. It has the different sections of who are members. So like had been kind of spelled out, the politicians, the industry partners, media, first responders, that kind of stuff. And I think that was all I had to say.
Right.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I decided to get sick this week instead.
Well, I'm glad the Zoom worked or the WebEx worked and you can be with us. So thank you for the update. Any questions for Amber? Got anything else?
I think that's all I've got.
All right.
Carrie, does that answer your questions? Yeah. Basically, Darren's been very supportive in the transition, and I think we're doing all right.
Excellent. All right. Moving on then, head back to just item number 9, attorney update.
Sure. Thank you. So as I was saying, so it's been a decreasing mandate by the state as far as what kind of money they've been putting back into the counties for reimbursement for the victim witness coordinators. And it got down, I think, as far as 37%, right? So we've gone from 100% over the course of time down to reimbursement of 37%. However, they have found a better, I don't know the ins and outs of it completely, but they found a better revenue stream at the state level, a more stable revenue stream. And so this year we're up to a little bit more than 50%. So we're actually getting more money than we have in the past for our victim witness reimbursement. I can say the reason they were looking for a more stable funding stream is because the funding stream used to be pretty much came solely from the fines, the victim witness surcharges in circuit court. That's all fine and great, but we're all, well, one, those are, of course, heard me say this many times, those are essentially regressive penalties. But that aside, the population that is getting those orders for the victim witness surcharge, for the court fines and costs, they can't pay. They don't pay. Their licenses are getting suspended or revoked because they can't pay. And so they sort of start circling the toilet as it is, as far as interaction with the court system. And they're not paying. If they don't pay, then the state can't reimburse the money, and then the state can't get it back to us. So that's why we needed something that was more stable than relying on this population that's getting surcharges to begin with. So they still collect those. The court still orders them to the extent that they are captured. You know, Stacy does a lot of heavy lifting to try to get the stuff back, but it's just too fluid of a stream. So we've got a more stable funding stream. So that's useful. So hopefully we'll stay at 50%. We can always hope that it goes up a little more. And my last thing, I'll note I left the room here for a minute to catch a court hearing, but my assistant district attorney on her vacation day came in on Zoom to handle the hearing so that I could come to this meeting. So it's Amy Forehand is the attorney. She's 80% assistant district attorney. She is 20% assistant corporation counsel. And that has worked not very well in my view over the course of time. So she gets 8 hours a week basically of doing assistant corporation counsel stuff. And I know the court will be able to attest to this too.
It's related on the child cases.
What?
Just related on the child cases or.
Oh, she does 51. So she does chips. She does mental commitment. She does all the juvenile court. She does chips, mental guardianships. So, right. So, and child support. Right? So for 8 hours a week, which is ridiculous and untenable. And it always has been. Amy will not.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's true. There's no way.
No way.
Amy Forehand only spends 8 hours a week. She spends way more than 8 hours a week on all of these different types.
And has for years. And she has been, in my view, and I've taken her to task on this many times, and she listens, and then I stomp out of her office. But she has been taken advantage of by the county, only because the county, this probably hadn't been brought to their attention for years, by getting far more work out of her than she gets paid per week. It has now gotten worse, much worse recently, because I don't know the ins and outs. I know the speculation. I know the rumors. I'm not getting into any of that, other than the department head for child support was fired on Friday. And then all of a sudden, Amy has to step in and do all of this whatnot on Monday. All of the work that she had been doing all of a sudden, and part of that is because there's paperwork that's due to the state. It's also very administrative heavy. If you don't get the paperwork in, you don't get the reimbursements from the state. All this stuff is time sensitive, right? She's got to do the stuff. She can't not do the stuff. There's no one else who knows how to do the stuff. She only had one employee it's not even her employee. She's the lawyer for child support. All of a sudden, she gets completely dumped on. And so now the work has blossomed to even a more ridiculous level, given that she's only supposed to be working 8 hours a day. She's staying here all night half the time because now she has all that other. So, yep.
Yes.
So, you know,
that conversation, because it's under Pine Valley, the child support. She's thinking about not having a director.
Who's she? It's under Health and Human Services. Well, I think
No,
child
no,
support
no.
is under.
Child support is under Pine Valley.
Then why does it have?
Under the committee.
Oh,
The
Committee
committee.
structure.
right. And so they're thinking
And
about doing that.
she's thinking about eliminating
Director,
that as a director for child support.
sure. But the problem is the work still exists.
Yes,
The reports to the state still have to get done. All the administrative work has to get, all that work still has to be done. So that's great to say, we're not gonna have an administrator anymore,
right.
but the work still exists.
Right.
And to now just say we're gonna have 2 people there and, Amy will get her 8 hours, patently unfair. Add to that, the state ADA system, the state Supreme Court, I believe the court itself here, I was going to talk to Jen about that, has increased attorney hourly rates. We just went from $75 an hour to $100 an hour for Supreme Court rate, is that correct, Your Honor? For court-appointed attorneys. We just got, not me, because I'm not an assistant district attorney, a $9 an hour raise as an ADA. Amy's sitting on about $40 an hour. That is ridiculous. I am certain that Attorney Wendell, God love him, and he's the corporation counsel. I'm certain he bills a lot more than $40 an hour.
I heard 100.
Well, and that's really not the point of where we are here. So I understand what you're
But
saying.
the point here is this, she's still my 80% ADA. And if all this other work is getting smashed into my hours, I'm getting less than my 32 hours a week, because now all of this other stuff has gone on. And no one's talked to me about how this extra work affects.
And you
work.
just also mentioned that you were going to talk to Candace, the administrator, about that. Is
Yeah,
that
you
the
know why?
topic?
Because no one has talked to me about it.
Is that the topic that you were going to bring up with her? Is this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because no one did that. I'm talking to this committee because it affects my office as far as the
Absolutely.
ADA. And no one, despite all the fact that all of this has gone on, has talked to me about any of it. So this is another example of departments working in silos, despite the fact that there's an interaction that can deleteriously impact another department. So that's my purpose of talking about this here, is that it impacts my office. No one has had a conversation about it. And it's just a continuation of what I see as far as my ADA who works out of my office. There you go.
Okay, thank you. And I will like to know how that conversation goes, and I think this is something I can also have that conversation with the administrator about, but you've already started that, so please make that meeting and get it started. District Attorney update, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you. Item number 11, PSAP and GIS grant monthly updates. Anything new?
Yeah. I have every other week to meet with the state regarding the installation of, sorry, trying to blank here, I was in the middle of something else.
Vesta,
No, well, it relates to that with Ezinet. They also talk to the people from the grants. The problem is, we are running with the best update in 2020, where that was all paid for with grants. And I'm getting extremely nervous because those grant deadlines are June. And our call this week centered around the focus that if that's not completed, the grant won't pay for it. And that's $250,000. So we are working, they are putting the pressure, Ezinet is putting pressure on Baytown. They are now making weekly phone calls to the project manager. I am sending weekly emails to the project manager. But we are 3 months behind where installation was to be done with absolutely no answers and they're giving us nothing. So my last conversation with Candace was it's time to turn this to Attorney Finn.
So the question is AT&T, on their EZNet side is not going to meet the deadline? Is that what I'm hearing?
If they don't meet the deadline because their vendor they subcontract out their installation for their fiber. We dug the hole, that's a separate issue.
We're ready for the fiber to come in.
Ready, we dug the hole, we've got the piping through the building. Their vendor told them it's done. We took a picture, sent it to them and said, we got the hole dug, but they never came back. And they marked the ticket closed on their end. So they had to go back and look at that. And then there's a problem with ACOM. So there's a lot going on in this right now. I will update you as I know, but we have nothing back from ACOM and I can't make them give me any answers.
And Baycom, you're waiting for the update to the Vesta, so it would handle the.
We're waiting on them to be able to take in SIP lines.
Right.
So we risk losing funding.
And like I said, I have gotten everyone chasing Baycom every week. Short of turning it over, and I've emailed all the contracts to Mike Whittle. I just haven't pushed to have him follow up, and Candace, town of us is probably time.
As chair of the State 911 Subcommittee, I will be making some contacts and calls on that as soon as this meeting is over.
Can we send a letter to like Baycom's CEOs or?
Yes.
They've been copied on every email I've been sending. And my emails have not been nice. They've been professional, but definitely with my dissatisfaction noted.
So what type of positions does that put us in now? So use the 250,000. Say they don't.
But I've got 3 months yet.
Yeah.
So what?
I mean,
happens?
it's not budgeted for.
What happens to
The
that
money
next month?
disappears.
We borrow.
It's not, that's not part of it.
It's grant money.
This is grant.
So the flip side of this is, yes, it's grant money. I guess if the deadline misses and the state doesn't do an extension on that, the next grant period would have to be applied for again. Next grant period should be starting in August of this year. It's an $18 million grant up from $6 million, which delays things again, but funding would still be out there.
You talk about the state, that's the committee that you're affiliated with.
The State 911 Subcommittee,
That's the one she's talking about.
the same grant.
You're
Yeah,
affiliated.
yeah, I'm chair of that committee. The state, so.
So she's dropping the ball here on a lot of stuff, like following up and make sure the work's done.
Well, it kind of sounds like Baycom is not coming up with their deadline. I know that AT&T has been behind on some of theirs because they've not been able to get enough project managers to go, but they're catching up on that. They're doing better than they were when they started. They did just bring in a new state over director for the AT&T project for the 911. And it also sounds like whoever's tunneling the fiber. So it sounds like you have at least 2 delays for sure. One is the fiber and one is Baycom. I'm gonna guess AT&T is probably ready to go as soon as those things are done.
Yeah, and they are.
Yeah.
They were on the phone call on Wednesday, and they're ready.
So it's the vendor that the county picked of Baycom is one, and then whoever the vendor that was contracted by AT&T to put the fiber in is the other one. So we have a county contract and we have a state contract. County's gonna be the headache of the Baycom. Yes.
Do we have any leverage as far as pay?
We haven't given them any money.
Huh?
Yeah, we haven't given them any money.
Well,
I mean,
just say, if you don't meet this deadline, you don't get paid.
I mean, we have
We
the
signed
old
it.
system that we're still paying for now too, that we shouldn't need to use. So there's,
Penalty on that.
yeah,
it's just, we'll keep plugging away on it.
Um,
Just talking to the committee, that's where we're at.
Richland County is not the only PSAP in the state that's run into some of these challenges. There are other counties that run into it too. I think we've just run into the local service provider has been more of the challenge here than some of the other counties, so. All right, I guess month by month, I will make some calls on my side, and sounds like you guys are doing yours, so.
You fall around military affairs, right?
Yes.
So who do you go for who's your?
So,
chair, like, who's?
so I'm the 911 subcommittee chair. My committee is the Interoperability Council, the IC. We get raw governor appointed, so trying to rack things up here pretty quick.
Maybe get some of our legislators involved.
I want to see, first of all, what the status is, if the grant period can, what the grant period window is on that, and what the status is on that for projects that are sluggish. So from there, if we need to, yeah.
Seems like our representatives and our senators have been more proactive in Richland County than they've ever been before.
And again, if it's a BACOM issue, or if it's a private
Sure they'd
company
be
issue,
willing to help us.
that becomes our challenge. But letters to legislatures are great, but when it's a private company that isn't doing their job, that's our contract at this point, the county's contract at this point.
We're doing our due diligence, so hopefully the 911 and military affairs will see that we have and maybe give us some.
That's what we gotta check on and see what the status is. And again, there's another grant round coming, so if something happens with this, there is another grant round coming.
But doesn't BACOM, besides this grant, doesn't BACOM got our contract to do the rest of the?
GenCom.
GenCom, two different companies. Too bad they both end in com.
There's another, what's the other one that they're always talking about?
Black.
No, there's another stuff I think, Raycom.
Oh, Raycom.
I'm like, nope, there's another one that's very similar. I keep hearing them all three in the meetings, and I'm like, stop.
All right, so anything else under PSAP, JS grants? To do and
So is it complicated to get from one grant cycle to the next?
no,
So it's not really gonna be
it's a reapplication.
serious
But you
heartburn.
can't have the contract signed prior, because they will not cover anything with contract signed prior.
There could be complexity there.
Yes.
Well, and it has sadly happened in other counties where where it's been transferred from one grant to another
Right.
because of delays. So there's some possibilities there.
You gotta explore that.
We have to start putting our plan together and getting it out there so that when it does happen, everybody knows what the status is. So
Right, we don't get dumped with a bunch of bills we can't pay.
blindside.
Maybe if somebody was involved in the grant creation process, they could leave that door open for people who need to fund existing projects.
It's already there.
All right.
That's what covers it.
This is not the first time this has happened. Let's put it that way. Okay. Anything else on the PSAP grants? All right, hearing none, going on to item number 12, approval of monthly invoices and other sheriff's department reports. Sheriff, want you to do reports first? Or
Yeah, I can do the reports first.
you?
So we had $40,000, $123.22 for vouchers for the month of February. 47 jail bookings. Average number of inmates housed is up again slightly to 39. Monthly complaints were at 425. 57 traffic citations issued, 8 traffic warnings issued, 44 civil process papers served, and 13 transports for the month. Our average number on electronic monitoring is 7. Total calls for service were 670 calls for service in the dispatch center, 91 calls for EMS, and 128 calls for the police department.
Okay. Any questions for the sheriff on this?
Went from 0 traffic warnings issued to now we're starting to
Yeah, there's
see a string.
Yeah. There's starting to be people that I guess are interested in that, and
I think it's a good thing.
it is a good thing, and it's, if you look at it from a records management standpoint, I would say almost everything is being run in some fashion through our records management system now. So if they're out on a stop with somebody and they see that so-and-so had 2 or 3 warnings already, then maybe it's time for a citation. And also, I think equally important for the court system is that information could be incorporated into hearings if somebody's you know, we can say, hey, look, we warned them 3 times before we wrote them the citation. Maybe they don't need a break this time. You know, I think all that stuff's important, and if we can show the tracking of where we've been writing citations, and we start building that into our records management system, I think that's important on a number of fronts.
Where it's plausible, I'd like to see, it would be nice to see traffic warnings issued increased. Maybe the citations be down if it's plausible.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times I feel that it's great to take it first than not.
And that's an individual,
It is.
Situation.
individually based, is where some people might have multiple offenses, but only write for one, and we have some people who might write for every.
I know
offense they
some
have
that
in front of
don't
them.
have any of it.
Exhibit A. This Tim is a verb. Guy got wallied. This guy got wallied. Take it as a point of pride.
My point of view, I don't know how many non-tickets I've given out. I give up people, there's several citations I could write, just because they
I
get
think
one
the verbal ones
citation,
are
they'll
great
get
too.
40.
The verbal ones are great too.
Be afraid of him. I take that verbal.
Documentation. All right, anything else on reports?
No.
All right. Monthly invoices, questions on monthly invoices? Anything in particular, anything stand out to anyone? Hearing nothing, I'm looking for a motion to approve the monthly invoice.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Okay, second. All in favor, say aye.
Yes, I was gonna ask Eric Blanford. See, he's got some stuff on here. Lewis, we, like, a couple years ago, put him on, and we haven't heard nothing from him. He's supposed to do some court security, wasn't he? And then
He's doing court security.
He does. He
health
does.
issue probably in there at some point.
Since he's been on with us, well, I guess, yeah, there was a brief period where he really wasn't putting in any hours, but lately, he actually covers a good amount of our court. So he's here quite often. I would say him and Christian probably almost exclusively split the court security duties. So, yeah. Yeah, he's put in a fair amount of hours. He's interested in doing more, for us, but hasn't yet.
So on that note, just real quick, this isn't on invoices, but how do you feel like the wanding in that is going with Christian and Eric?
I guess I haven't heard much for feedback or complaints on it. So how do you guys think it's going? Has it been continuing as a?
It's difficult. It's difficult for one security officer to do all the duties and then catch
Watch
every
2
single
doors.
person that comes in, 2 doors, wand them. Often people come in and it's very awkward. Court is going on. He has to order them back out. He's got to wand them. And then there's multiple people coming in. It's very awkward. So I will say that they're doing their best, but it's not the best system.
I think the biggest help was probably the signing and saying no more bags, you know, because that makes it a little bit easier if you don't have to search through a large bag every time. Or, you know, you add that into the complexity of just doing the wanding.
I think one of the issues too, which is complicated, is our court room is open even when we don't have officers there. So I might come up at 1 o'clock for a bail hearing. Well, I've got the family members of the people who are in jail who are also pissed off, who are sitting up in the courtroom. I come toddling in with my computer and there's nobody else in the room except for the people who are mad, right? And you would know that, I mean, so that's just one of the challenges. And I know the other night is we had someone, Justin Kraut, who had the hearing at the end of the day at 4:30. His attorney left, Kraut's still wandering around, but our court security is gone. So that's just an administrative thing that's just another one of those challenges, you know? He's a dude we don't need wandering around. So it's just another
Yeah,
challenge.
it's a problem. Big open courtroom. Nobody in it, and then, you know, there's no eyes on what's going on in there. You know, you can all imagine what can happen. It happens every single day. So far nothing's happened. It's a problem.
Right. Sheriff, other, took care of the invoices, anything else with reports? All right. Moving on to item 13, discussion and approval of ordinance 89-7.
So, if everybody recalls that email Melissa sent out to us, I believe Candace also has some concerns on the same topic, so that's unfortunate she's not here right now. Regarding the ability of lieutenants and the chief deputy all to be able to return back to their prior position.
Correct.
If A, we choose that it's not a suitable fit for them, or B, they choose it's not a good fit for them. And in my opinion or my thoughts on it were, is I think it's important to leave that language in, because I've seen it happen both ways at another agency very close to us, where somebody in the command staff decided they no longer wanted to be command staff and went back to a patrol position. And B, somebody was maybe not a great fit for that position and was moved back to a patrol position. In both instances in that agency, somebody from patrol was then moved into that. So they never went into a period where they had more staff than they were supposed to. They just didn't have all the people in the right positions for a period of time. And I think that's probably the likely outcome in most instances. There is a chance, an outside chance that somebody from the outside is brought in and you have too many people and now you have to look at as who are we going to let go or lay off or what have you. It's certainly a possibility. I don't think it's a strong possibility.
So someone from the outside came in, from outside the department came in, and then that doesn't work out, they're just out. They're not coming back within the department, so that's not going to affect anything.
We've already had that happen here.
Yeah,
Yes.
that doesn't affect anything. The question is if a person within the department gets promotion, I'll call it that, it doesn't work out or they choose not to and they go back down and a position has been hired, the worst case scenario is that you may have to let someone go.
We talked about that though, and
We did. I mean, it's
like, if one was a sergeant and they got promoted up, that they would go back and fill that sergeant position, that person's the sergeant.
And again, I'm going to argue that they would return to their position, not the sergeant assignment. The position we return to would be the road patrol deputy, because they may have lost their seniority or their seniority and their points because they lose that time. So they would return the position of road patrol deputy, not sergeant, not whatever positions there is, back to that position, and then the sorting has to go through from there, is my understanding of how that works.
I don't know that the contract language is that specific on it. I think it just says return. Well,
It says
the
position.
so I should clarify, because the contract only references him.
Right.
In that language. The ordinance is what references.
Correct.
The lieutenant positions and his.
Right.
So I'm not sure what would happen with the lieutenants in that instance per the contract. With him, it specifically says he returns to the position he vacated with the tenure time he had in that position.
Right.
So
at this point, we don't have we don't have anything we're still in limbo on that decision. We haven't really gone past, we haven't come to a solution for that topic with Candace and with you, correct? So we're kind of in a limbo spot this month.
Yep. And I think Candace also wanted to discuss the hiring, the interview process as well some more. So I think there's maybe a couple topics we need to.
So we need to kick this down the road. So this was just discussion today.
Yep, I think so.
All right. Any other discussion on this at this point? I guess we need to make sure we meet with Candace, get her the next meeting to make sure we get those resolved.
Yep.
All right. All right. Okay, moving on then, item number 14, discussion and possible approval regarding construction of an outdoor gun range on county property.
So this has kind of been a long-going discussion, I would say, going back a few years between myself and Chief Billy Jones regarding finding, whether it be county or city property, finding a location where we can have a law enforcement training range. There's a few, I guess, safety and security issues. We currently use the public range out on Cooper Hill Road. We have probably for as long as we've been doing firearms training. It works, does the job for us. We have room to house some targets out there. That's a shared room we share with the Pine River Sports Association, but we do have storage space out there. What we run into, I guess I'll say from a safety standpoint, is with it being a public range, there have been years of people misusing it. TV tubes have been shot out there throughout the years, glass bottles, there's sharp metal in the ground. That stuff works its way up out of the ground, and we're kneeling, crawling, laying in it. So from a safety standpoint, I'll say that. From a security standpoint, I can think of a number of times where we've been training. We do a lot of our training downrange because it's easier to get everybody laid out in row. The ground is a little more level down there. So we usually work from about the 100-yard targets back 25 or 50 yards. So we're not by the shed. You'll have people from the public that'll pull up. They'll start taking all their guns out of the cases and setting them on benches, even though we have signs everywhere that says the range is closed. I have been out at a training where people have walked into the shed from the public and racked a shotgun behind us. Generally, we're quite aware of when somebody pulls in, but when you're working down in that end of the range, you don't always hear a car roll into the parking lot. And there's no fencing or way for us to just completely close it off and prevent people from coming in. So we've had this discussion now for a couple of years. And again, revolving around, let's see what we can find for property that either the city or the county already owns that we can repurpose. More recently, Josh Elder has joined in on this discussion. We've looked at some properties that the highway shop uses that might be suitable. And so we came up with the county gravel pit on County N here, right next to the Milestone Quarry. So we have a section of that we've been looking at that Josh feels that he could sacrifice and allow us to use and not be in his way. So we brought Candace in the discussion now. But I think what we could do is we could probably turn it into a usable range rather cheaply and then upgrade it over time. But we'd be looking at using kind of the south end of that gravel pit. They already have a lot of fill in there that they could rearrange and we could berm up and make it so even to the point where if we needed to use it and the highway shop needed to use it during the day, we both could still use it. Josh doesn't feel that it would be burdensome or a burden for his department to do the work to rearrange the fill and to create the berms. And so I kind of looking at trying to push forward and start creating a range up there.
What is it that you're looking for? Do we need to get pricing, budgets? What's this project going to look like cost wise?
So I don't know if we haven't exactly crunched numbers on cost as far as, obviously there's going to be some equipment and some man time on Josh's end and our end, probably for creating this.
Are we looking at buildings? Are we looking at electricity? Are we looking at?
Not looking at electricity. We do have, so we'll need a place to store our targets up there. Part of this discussion has been Chief Billy Jones has I think it was a 12-by-8 shed that he is looking to remove from his lot there. And we could possibly move that up the hill and use that for storage. There's a potential that maybe we'd want to build like a 3-sided shed somewhere where we could go in if we were in inclement weather and shoot from the shed. And I think we may have a way to fund that without tapping into our budget. So that's something I'll have to discuss with the union members themselves, but there is some fundraised money that we have. I think the biggest thing will probably be equipment and personnel time from the highway shop and rearranging some earth up there.
Are there bathroom facilities up there?
There's not, so we probably have to get a portable John up there.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there any local resident problems?
So that's part of why we've looked at that one, because there's really nothing that is, the other options we've looked at, there are residents that are really close. This one, the direction we're going to be shooting, there is not another residence for a very long ways, miles. In the direction we're shooting. There are some, I believe there's a farm behind it. The way we're planning on, the direction we're planning on pointing it, there would be a farm behind us, but there's actually like a natural hill that the highway runs by that would actually probably be a good sound barrier for them. Would be my guess. There is, but it's actually open to the highway where we're looking at putting it. And then there's, I don't know if you're familiar with driving up N,
Right
right?
in my backyard.
Yep, so you drive up N, the quarry's on your right. There's a hill beside the road to your left. So we're between, the residents would be on the other side of that hill from us. And we're not planning on shooting that direction anyway. I'm more thinking of sound, something to deaden the sound.
You gotta come over and visit you.
Yeah. And that was a thought too in this, is that maybe if we had this, it would be something where we could invite we could host like a once a year, we could do a site-in, a deer hunter site-in for county employees, or potentially we could host a concealed carry course for county employees or something like that. So find some way to benefit other county departments with it.
Committee, your discussions, your thoughts?
Well, we talked about the one on Keysville, right across the road from where we're putting the new tower at. Talk about for a pistol range at one time. That's owned by Kramer Company.
Oh,
Or the other one, this householder one's owned by Matthew. I think the Kramer Company still owns it, but Matthew's like leasing it.
yeah.
You may be able to talk to Matthew and see about using their porta potty if they have one there.
Yeah, so there is access into the main quarry from this. It's all open to the Kramer quarry there. But I think, I guess I don't know what the cost of renting. There's numbers we need to figure out still, but I don't know what the cost of renting a porta potty is.
Do it for parks.
Yeah,
Could add it on to that.
yeah.
So it sounds like at this point, we're in the discussion phase of this, and we need more information.
Yeah, I think we need to get some hard prices from Josh on what his man hours would be on doing it, or what his thoughts are on that. But I do believe his intent is to take this before Public Works at their next meeting as well.
Okay.
So to kind of discuss that with them.
And I guess from the sheriff's department side, I'd like to see what those projected costs are, so we know what to plan and budget for, and to see what that bigger picture looks like.
Can I make a suggestion? Just maybe add the word training in there or something, because from the outside, you know, like if you're not familiar with this thing going on and you just look at the agenda, kind of jump to some other conclusions other than training and, so that just was a little bit of a,
Okay.
as a outside, I didn't have any idea and hadn't heard what you just said.
Yeah.
They kind of, just to clarify what the use would be for training and county purposes. Some wording that would give you a little bit more insight to the use of it.
And the other thought was too with this, if we had our own range and we controlled it, we could bring in outside training vendors. a lot of times if you can host an outside training vendor, you get free spots in their classes. So we could kind of bring in training from outside of the agency as well as potentially host trainings ourselves for other agencies.
All right, then I would recommend that this come up on the next agenda then, be added in, and you can give us some pricing, some numbers, and
Remind Josh that we're working on porta potties for our county parks.
Good pricing.
Go, let's add an extra one on to theirs. So if he's gonna be our head now
Yeah,
for parks, instead of just getting a separate one and billing it to the sheriff's department, why don't you just add it on? Parks thing all together.
if you're gonna have larger scale activities, might there be need on a case by case basis to bring in additional ones too?
I recommend the targets you're getting, talk about a shed, just get a store or a shipping container.
Yeah.
But if that falls within the extraterritorial zone, maybe the city won't allow that.
The thought with the shed is that it's available, that the city's not currently using it and that Billy wants that space for something else. So it's available and it exists and we would just have to find somebody to move it up the hill for us. So, yeah, but yeah, if that has been a thought. And on the existing ranges, do we get a container because we're running out of space in that room for our targets? So, yeah.
okay, anyone else, do you want to do anything else with this other than leave it at discussion and have it come up the next meeting?
What the Yuba? Did you know about that one?
I know about it.
Don't wanna do that?
It's a private range.
No.
Any other discussion? Okay, nothing to approve at this point, so we look forward to hearing from you at the next meeting on that. Item number 15, radio tower project updates.
Request for these updates, to be given, I know that the one that I'll be giving to finance is gonna start with financial things first, because that's stuff that the questions are. For our site acquisitions, all of the sites are picked. We are working, I've got to email Mike Windell, he's supposed to have the land contract leases to me today. I haven't seen them, I just went through my email again, and didn't have them. As soon as we get those back from our corporate council, I think that all of our sites are ready to sign. We started with the sites surveys. The one at Tower Hill is pretty much done. I think the archaeology one is done up there too, is it? Been done with the archaeology up there. So we're like ready to roll with Tower Hill. We're very close to rolling with Keysville. And with, both, that we just need the land contract one, the contract signed with both. Viola saying the landowner is much an agreement. Viola in Westport, we will have roads that will need to be built. We had Josh on the meeting this week. There is concern because this project has to be done by December, and that means those roads need to be in by mid-April or May in order for the radio vendors to be up there and for the tower vendors to be up there and building towers. So we're running very tight on a time schedule. But did you have a time set up with him yet?
Meet with Josh, not yet.
So he'll go out with Clay and look at the sites. And we'll get the roads started. We've been working through the FCC verification process. For March, we'll be finalizing with the FCC on all the sites and all of the landowner contracts and leases will be signed. We do have a lot of the equipment started. Gen Con can receive some more of the equipment as soon as those landowner agreements are signed, so they can start working on Richland and Gotham and Keysville. I think are the first three they're gonna start on. If I remember correctly.
Makes sense.
Civil engineering, again, we're seeing a lot of cost in the Westport and there'll be some in the Viola. So if we go to the budget tracker, this is hard to read, a little bigger. In your package, you can kind of zoom in. The thing I wanted to point out, our initial budget is much higher than our borrowing budgets. So what we're working off of, what we're concerned with is our borrowing budget compared to our current budget. So currently, the radio tower equipment is on track. Subscriber equipment, initially, we wanted to give 1.4 million. When at the point when we borrowed, we feel that there are 222,000 that will be able to give to subscribers. If there was extra contingency, that was a consideration that we needed to do. Professional services, those contracts are kind of written in stone. There's a lot of way that we're gonna go over, because you're kind of looking at edge, you're looking at, like Days Come from True North. And those are, we're spending money out of them already. We've got 86,000 spent. And then the civil engineering with the fees. US Cellular fees, we have to pay US Cellular to have tower surveys done if we want to put equipment on the towers. And those fees are known now, and those are in there. The civil vendors, those again, we don't have that. We're not to the point where we can get the civil vendors and people who actually go out and do the work on constructing the tower. That we're anticipating to do 3.2 million. And we aren't to the point where we can get those bids specifically. After that, then, sorry, I'm gonna scroll mine, and I can't read that up there. The property leases and utilities are the 180,000. And then contingency still sits at 135,000 for the radio contract. We pretty much know where the radio top, that's GenCom's piece of it. We know where their prices are. They have not had increases in our meetings. They have said that their equipment is still the same. We're not anticipating that. So we move money out of the radio contract contingency into the civil contingency because that's likely where we're going to have the greatest fluctuation. So at this point, we're still looking at coming in. Our jail door controllers, they come in a little bit of budget. You guys approved those several months ago, and we're starting to schedule those in. We have wiring coming in March 11th for that. So overall project is still on budget and we're hoping on time. But we're starting to feel the time crunch a little bit. Any questions?
Questions on the radio project? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Number 16, mapping radio system and squad updates. Pretty much everything we've covered with squad updates, I think.
Nothing really new for squads. We did get one new squad in from Philback. He did that, what, 2 days ago?
Yep, and I'm working on having a date for upfitting here probably in the next month for that. As it's gonna have minimal equipment in it, so we don't we aren't waiting for really anything on it. We're just waiting for the radio to arrive and they should be ready to put it together.
Okay. Anything from the committee on item 16, mapping radio system updates and squad updates? Anything from the committee?
Actually, that's another kind of south too, is one of our squads visited here, so that one's gonna be scheduled to go in, probably not for another month and a half. What was it, $9,000 damage to the K9 squad?
That's the one with the headlight that was hanging out of it. It's what reports I got.
Probably.
They seen one coming in a squad car with a headlight hanging out of it.
Oh, I don't think it was hanging out, but it is broken. Yeah, that has damage all down the driver's side of it. So deer hit and just, actually it was 2 deer, responding to an emergency call. So, yeah.
Can't stop it. Any other questions on item 16 from the committee? Moving to item 17, future agenda items. Anybody with future agenda items?
I will probably come forward, I'm not prepared for it today, but I'll probably come forward with a request to repurpose some of our borrowed funds that were from the new car outlay for the purpose of upgrading part of my radio fleet to operate on the new system.
Okay.
So portables and potentially mobiles, trying to make sure that when the date comes to make the switch, that I have all the equipment to do it.
Okay, so that'll be an agenda item for next meeting.
I believe so. I think I'll be prepared for it by then.
Okay, so it'll be Sheriff's Department radio.
Yeah.
Equipment. Okay.
And I'd like to have, bail jumping in DC with the motor vehicle discussion of ordinances.
Okay. Will you have ordinance ready to be reviewed at that point? Is that be just a discussion? And what would be?
Hopefully, because all I gotta do is send it to Wendell.
Okay.
And say, here's the criminal one, because they always have to just, mirror the criminal in order for us to prosecute it, mirror the criminal statutes. So hopefully,
We'll have something to review.
yeah, and I'll talk to, the sheriff about it.
And the judge at that point or not?
At that point,
Okay.
she shouldn't get to figure out what our statutes are.
Well, I didn't know if that was part of the discussion. All right.
It will be after I start prosecuting them, and she goes, oh, where did this come from? It's like, should have been at the meeting. She can ask as many questions, though, of course, at the meeting.
Right. Yes. Don't want to silo anything. Just make sure communication across. All right. Item number, anything else for future agenda items? Moving on, item number 18 is a closed session. You need a motion to go into closed session. Motion to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're gonna take just a moment here.
She'll be coming.
She'll come in.
Jennifer, you were talking about the witness thing. How does that margin law affect what you were saying when the state doesn't want to give more?
We have to make a motion to recommend, once we're in open, we'll take the motion to recommend the decisions be given to the sheriff. And then we'll.
What is that thing keeps knocking down there?
That was in our county board meeting.
Yeah, they were doing it last night too. It wasn't that loud.
We're active? Okay, we're active. So we're back in open session, and I'm looking for a motion to pass the candidate list that did in closed session on to the sheriff.
I'll second that.
I have a move from Carrie, second from Richard. Yep, just making sure I got all my stuff here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that completes that item. Last item on the agenda is item number 19, adjournment. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Move. Dave, second. Carrie, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.